All right, so we'll say, so we're continuing in Meretz Hashem in Parak Yutes. Parak Yutes. Ramchal writes as follows. Nimseis Lamat. So we'll say, actually, it's nice that we left off over here. It's a little bit of a summary. A little bit of a summary as to what we just had before. Nimseis Lamat. So Ramchal Nimseis Lamat. It turns out when it comes to Chasidus, Shishnei Dran Yesh Binyan Zer. We'll say there are two components to being a Chassid. Now, the truth is there are many more than two components, but two components for now. Echad, Hakavana, Bechol Mitzvah Va'avoda, Shetia Le'ilui Kevodo Shalmakom Amashabri Osef Osem Nachas Ruach L'fanav. We'll say number one, we saw this before in last week's shir, that when a Chassid does a mitzvah with the intention to elevate and to amplify the greatness of Hashem. As opposed to a tzaddik, who may do mitzvahs again, even for loftier purposes, olam haba, schar, right? Even in the next world, a chassid doesn't do a mitzvah for any self-serving purpose. The only reason a chassid does a mitzvah, ultimately, is to amplify the greatness of the Ribono Shel Olam. That's number one. Number two, v'od hatzar v'abakasha al ilui hakavod hazeh she'asa b'shleimus b'ili kvod she'esav v'shavasan. The chassid feels a sense of pain, feels a sense of tsar, a sense of sadness over the fact that in the current state of galus, in the current state of diaspora, in the current state of Beis Hamikdash disrepair, the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not felt as acutely as it could be. And the only way to repair that, Rabbosai, is to lift up Klal Yisrael. Because if Klal Yisrael is lifted up, right, if the kavod of Klal Yisrael is restored, then by definition the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is restored. Which Rabbosai now leads Ramchal to speak of something so incredibly beautiful. Va'amnam. Od ikar sheni yish bekavanas hachasidus. Rabbosai is incredible. There's another aspect in Chasidus. What's the other aspect? It's so beautiful. V'hu tovas hadar. It will say that a Chassid has to act for the benefit of the generation. Meaning what? Shehine roi l'kol Chassid she is kaving b'maisav l'tovas doro kulo l'zakos osam l'hagin aleim. The Chassid will say has to have in mind that what he does should serve as a merit for the generation, for his entire generation, and a source of protection for his generation. V'yin akasav imru tzadik kitov ki pri malaleim yochilu shekol adar ochel meperosa. This is so beautiful. The chassid should understand that when the chassid does something, when you do something like Rabbosai, it doesn't just benefit you. When you do something good and you do something positive, it benefits your entire generation. Again, Rabbosai referring to the Meraglim. Right, when Moshe sends the Meraglim, he tells them to scout out the land, and he asks them, Hayesh ba'etz, is there a tree? What does it mean, eitz? Im yesh mi shemegin al dora ke'etz. Moshe Rabbeinu was asking Meraglim, when you go into Canaan, is there someone pious and powerful in Canaan whose merits protect the entire generation? V'tira, so we'll say, isn't this incredible? That a chassid, part of his kavana, when he learns Torah, does mitzvahs, performs acts of chesed, is that what I am doing, if I'm a chassid, what I'm doing doesn't just impact me, but what I'm doing serves as a merit for my entire generation. V'tira, shezeru tzonu shalmakom. We'll say it's so beautiful. Shu chasidei Yisrael mezakim u'mechaper ma'kol shar hamadrego shabayim. We'll say, what does Hashem want from the chassid? Hashem wants for the chassid to ultimately be mezakeh, to give benefit, and to atone for the rest of Klal Yisrael. See, I will say, there's a recognition. And what's the recognition? I will say, is everyone going to be a chassid? Is everyone going to be a chassid? No. Now, if you notice, I didn't ask, can everyone be a chassid? Because can every person become a chassid? Can every person become a chassid? Absolutely. Absolutely. Can and will are two different questions. Can every Yid become a chassid? Absolutely. Will every Jew become a chassid? Absolutely not. So what's the job of the chassid? The job of the chassid is to look after the little guy. Right? The job of the chassid is to make sure that he understands that his merits ultimately help even those who are not yet on the level, and maybe who will never reach the level. He goes on, he says, so beautiful. But lulav, what is about the lulav? Lulav, yavo elu ve'icharba mal eila. So let's listen to this. What's the lulav? So remember again, we know the lulav, the esrog, the hadassim, and the aravos. Right? I will say, they all refer to different kinds of Jews. Right? I will say, right, the esrog, the tzaddikim. Right? And ultimately, again, and the lulav is one level. And the hadassim, so we'll say, what's the chap? You have to take them all together. Why do you take them all together? Why? Because why? To teach us, you think to yourself like this. The Aravas, for example, which represent a Jew who has nothing. Why do you even put him in the bundle? Just throw him away. Because there's no such thing as a throwaway Jew. There's no such thing as a Jew who is unimportant in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rebbe Shalom loves each and every one of his children. Those who are pious and those who are not pious. But what's the job? What's the job of those of us who may be pious, who may be holy? Our job is to come ba'aguda achas, to come to bring everyone together and to recognize that my merits are just for me. My merits are for me. So if you're an esrog, which is the pious of pious, right? You're the esrog Jew. You're the tzaddik. You know what I say? If you hold the esrog over here in one hand and hold the lulav hadas in the other hand, what's the halacha? What's the halacha? You'll say the mitzvah. The esrog is only meaningful when held in direct proximity to the lulav, the hadassim, and the aravas. So the esrog, which represents the tzaddikim, is only meaningful when it's held in direct proximity to the lulav, hadassim, and aravas, which represent Jews who are not on the same level of piety. Because what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want the esrog just to be an esrog for himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the esrog ultimately to take his piety and to influence others. It's so beautiful. Ela mitzvah mutelas ala chasidim lishtadol lezakosim lechaper aleim. What is the job of the chassid? The job of the chassid is to take his piety and allow it to rub off on others. And allow it, I will say, I want to point out, this is not even saying that the chassid is going out and actively engaging anyone. It's just that the chassid has the kavanah that he recognizes all of my mitzvahs, all of my Torah, all of my piety is not for me, or not just for me, but it's to influence and to shape those around me as well. The chassid might, right? The chassid is not setting up a booth on the corner putting tefillin on people. I mean, he can if he wants to, right? He can, that's fine, but that's not even what he's describing over here. He's just describing a mindset that the chassid recognizes my spiritual activity is not just for me. My spiritual activity is for the klal in its entirety. Here's here the Chal says it. The chassid has to have in mind both when he does his actions, right? His kavanah has to be when he does mitzvahs, when he davens. My kavanah, my intent is what I'm doing should be a benefit for all of Klal Yisrael. This is incredible, no? Imagine if we did this before every single time we did a mitzvah, before we davened, right? Before we put on tefillin, whatever it is. I am doing this mitzvah for the benefit of Klal Yisrael. He goes on, he says, Dainu sheispala al dor lechapra mishetar kapara. That the chassid, when he davens. That whoever requires atonement should have atonement within Klal Yisrael. Ulahashib b'tshuva mishetarchla. Whoever needs to do tshuva should do tshuva. Ulalamed sanigaria ala dar kulo. And to be a defender of the generation. See what I'm saying? We'll stop waiting for today. What Ramchal is saying is, it's so easy to write people off. It's so easy to write people off, right? This one, write them off, right? This one, write them off. This one, write them off. Nothing. What does a chassid do, I will say? A chassid says, listen, I have the power to affect change. How do I have the power to affect change? Every single mitzvah I do changes the fabric of the universe. Every single piece of Torah I learn changes the fabric. So therefore, what am I going to do? I'm going to have in mind that when I learn, when I daven, when I do a mitzvah, that I recognize that what I'm doing in Meretz Hashem should have a positive effect not just on me, but on who? On every member of Klal Yisrael. And therefore, through my dynamic spiritual activity, I lift up the klal as well. That is the job of a chassid. We're not finished with this. We'll stop over for today. Shkoyach.